Well, good morning from Port Glenone Forest. Beautiful spring morning, really is beautiful. Sunrises the last week have been beautiful, really, really lovely, but nothing that I would really class as photographic. Very clear skies, lovely to watch, lovely to go out for a run in, but not really from a photographic point of view. Um, I'm also not one to do cliche type shots, and of course, around this time of year, the bluebells are out in force. No more so in this area anyway, like Port Glenone. Um, but I thought I was here the other day just as a bit of a dander round, and it was just really, really nice. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a couple of hours this morning with the main kit and just see what we can do from a bluebell point of view. Okay, so standing in the middle of the forest, just shafts of light coming in, as you can see behind me. And the bluebells are, I would say that maybe a day or so, a couple of days beyond their absolute peak. But then again, I'm sure there's still going to be some little pockets of loveliness. Um, this forest lies on a pretty significant slope, so because it's rather early in the morning, the bottom side of the forest is probably going to be less in sun, so I'm going to stick up to this section first of all. Now, I've actually brought my whole kind of arsenal of lenses. When I'm working in forests, I do like to shoot with the longer lens, the 1-400, so I'm sure it's going to get a bit of an outing. But my first task is to make use of some of this light that's streaming in from the right hand side. So, and of course, you also have these lovely little paths as well that can sometimes make for sort of a bit of a lead-in line perhaps. But we'll see how we go. But a dawn chorus as well. Hopefully you're picking some of that up because it's absolutely beautiful. Right, let's take a bit of a wander through and see what we can see. So one of the issues with shooting in a forest is when you have really, really sort of bright areas in part of the image. And of course, one of the brightest areas that we have in this particular image is this little gap of skyline. So that's kind of what I'm always watching for. So let's just bring ourselves back in behind the camera. So originally I kind of had myself sort of zoomed out just a little bit more, and you can see here, I think that would probably detract a little bit from the image. So one of the benefits of having the zoom lens is, let's just bring myself a little bit further forward, and now you see that our focus is simply going to be on the bells and the shadows on the tree and the leaves. So always watch out when you're shooting in the forest that you don't leave yourself. Sometimes you'll leave yourself even a little gap like that, and trust me, as soon as you get home, you'll want to crop that down. So one of the things I love about shooting in a forest with bluebells is the contrast of the colour between the green of the leaves and the bells. So actually just picking out little sort of pockets like that, and you can see here that's kind of what I've done here, just picking out some little pockets. And again, if you notice that I'm shooting at a shallower depth of field, f5.6, because even those leaves, I perhaps just want a couple of those leaves in focus. I definitely want the bells mostly to be kind of out of focus, just giving me just a little bit of kind of that just beautiful feeling of the forest colours. And then using these two sort of trees to kind of frame the shot, and then of course by underexposing it by about a stop, I'm also making sure that the background, there's just a hint of the background, not a huge amount. It means that your eye isn't wandering right the way through the frame. So I've come a little bit further into the forest, and as you can see behind me here, we now have little patches of wild garlic. Still shooting on the XT1 with the 18-135 and shooting at about 19-20 mil. Now if we come around, you can see that we now have that huge overexposed area behind me as the sun is kind of creeping in. Now there's a couple of things that I could do here. I could put a soft edge grad in there. Quite a big dynamic range, so I think even a 3-stop may be a little bit too harsh, especially if or not harsh enough actually, but it may actually cause some sort of unnatural darkness on those tree trunks. So actually what I've decided to do is shoot 4 exposures, each a stop apart, so I end up with kind of four images with 4 stops of light in it, and then I'll blend those in post, probably not all of them, but I like to make sure that I've got enough latitude in my images. So this, probably in the forest, probably won't be using my soft edge grads, at least in this particular scene. I quite liked that light, especially how it's then, you can see here, it just brings that lovely little bit of light in those bells across the way. And of course then we have still got the light streaming in through those trees. So here's an interesting thing that I think I've spoken about before. We have this fascination with lead-in lines, and I know I have mentioned it from time to time, and I know it's probably one of the easiest ways that you can get your viewer to look in a certain direction in your image. But I think we need to be careful that we don't happen across a scene that we think may work as a composition and then go looking for a lead-in line, or see a very strong lead-in line and try to then retrofit an image. Let me show you what I mean. So as you can see here, we have a very handy, natural, seemingly lead-in line, and it leads kind of up into the forest. Now, I'm not saying that I won't be able to get an image from this, but I think sometimes we just have to be careful that we don't see a natural line in the landscape and then just really try to get an image out of it. I mean, the light's kind of starting to kind of filter through and maybe light up little pockets, so there's still maybe an option here. But I just wanted to kind of show an example of where perhaps this is simply a fallen tree trunk and a nice scene, and I'm not sure they're best suited to each other. Now, I'm shooting it in a vertical composition, really to emphasize the tree kind of leading away, and then I want to get quite a lot of the upper trees in the scene as well. But as I say, is it going to work as an image? Not sure. I just wanted to highlight this as just a little pointer, that be careful that we don't go chasing after lead-in lines to complement a scene, or vice versa, when the two pieces together don't actually work. So one of the more complicated matters when you're shooting in a forest is making order of the chaos, and we can probably explain that a little bit in terms of separation. So as I was walking back up the hill, I noticed, if we just come down here, that this path, now the sun has kind of this sort of obviously went behind a cloud and moved a little bit more, but there were some lovely shadows and light on this path that were then kind of leading us up through the forest, and of course we've got that lovely light streaming in through the forest. However, when I was standing here, what I didn't like was this tree bang smack in the middle of that path leading upwards. Kind of almost felt to me a little like it was just blocking. So what I did was I actually moved myself a little bit And let me just zoom out a little bit more. And what it allowed me to do, now I was shooting at about 35 mil, so I'm not going to be able to show you exactly on this. I was still able to get the path in, albeit nothing on this side. But you see now that we can see right the way through. And that was just half a step, maybe one step to my left. So always worthwhile when you're looking at compositions, when you're looking at your frame, that is there a better composition, is there a better frame, one step to your left, one step to your right. So another one of those little intimate scenes looking for, with the kind of, a little bit too dark there, with the really the lovely light shining through those green leaves, and then throwing out the bluebells out of focus, the shallower depth of field. Let me just see whether I can show you what I'm looking at here using the video. So it's not going to be quite as I can probably digitally zoom you in, excuse the quality. So just again using those two trees as framing, and then just the light shining right through those leaves, just beautiful. And my focus is actually on those leaves, throwing that background sort of a little bit more out of focus. So another one of those little examples of separation. I'm going to show up two images here, and all I've done between the first and the second image is raise one of my tripod legs by about 2 inches, just to get rid of the little gap in the trees. Now, you could argue which is better. Maybe neither of them are. But again, it just kind of shows you that when you're looking around a scene, even just slight modifications, either in your physical position or even the position of your tripod, or even a slight zoom in and out on your lens, can actually make quite a difference to the scene. So what I wanted to do was get rid of that little gap between those two trees, and all I did was raise one of my tripod legs by about 1 inch. Both shot with shallow depth of field, again focus mainly on that foreground, and then throwing the rest of the bells kind of out of focus. Okay, so I think this is going to be one of the last shots of today, and it's quite a good lesson as well. We can think so long and hard about depth of field and compositions and lead-in lines and f-stops and all kinds of stuff. I'm a real believer in when you see a nice little scene, just take a picture. And that's exactly what happened here. I just was walking back down this hill and came across this lovely little scene with just very simple. And so I took a picture and I quite like it. So yeah, try not to get too head up in the whole technicalities of photography. You know, you'll find yourselves wandering through a forest such as this and stopping. There's a reason why you stopped. It was because your eyes, your brain saw something nice. So make an image of it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little bimble around Port Glenone forest. The bluebells are looking rather nice. They probably will last maybe another couple of days before they really start waning. So it's been lovely to get down and shoot this, especially as the next couple of days I'm going to be covering the Northwest 200 motorbiking, so a little less serene there, but very enjoyable. So as always, hope you enjoyed the content. Leave any comments and I'll try to reply below. But until next time, catch you guys soon. Bye bye.